What's up, everybody? Welcome to the very first virtual event for Guyana Rum Fest 2021, and we are so excited to do things up for you this year. Yep, we're still in the middle of a pandemic, but we're making best with what we have. And so today we're going to be having a really great conversation. We're so happy that you're with us. My name's Allana Bose, and I've got with me my rum buddy.
I'm Adrian Barrow.
And together we're going to take you through What Name Rum. I told you guys we are going to be having a really awesome conversation today with two connoisseurs. We've got Sam Laing from Cask 88, and we've also got Sly Augustine with us all the way from Trail of Happiness. Please welcome, guys. Thank you so much for coming through.
So, Adrian and I, we were both, well, I think Adrian's a little more of a connoisseur. I just enjoy. And so for me, well, I think you're a little bit more, you're gonna focus a little bit more. But for me, I'm very excited to have this conversation with the both of you. I do follow Cask 88 on Instagram, and I do have, I've now learned about your bar, Sly, and I'm excited. Don't worry, it's on my bucket list if I ever make it out there to the UK. But for me, at least, I know this is going to be a fantastic learning opportunity. So I want to thank you in advance for anything that you might, drop on me, any knowledge that you might be dropping on me.
No worries.
We're going to get right into it, Adrian. I know that, we have a fair idea. Most people have a fair idea of what rum is. But I really want to be able to talk to you because I want to get a different perspective. Like, you just have a general idea, and I'm hoping that you can give me a different perspective.
One of the key things and points of today's session is understanding what rum is. Right? Now, here in Guyana, ask the layman, what is rum? Generally, it's like any spirit, right? Which like, fires my ear because I want to sit there and sit down, breath it, and say, right, no, this is what rum is. So what we want to do today is kind of just break it down into this simple parts. And we have obviously two experts who know the industry, know the products, kind of inside out. So I think between us, at the end of the session, we'll be able to kind of talk about the history of rum, the types of rum that are there. That's kind of what we want to talk about.
And that sounds really great because you raised a really good point actually about the blends and the various types. And I'm so happy that we have Sam on the line with us here so that he can shed some light and shed some insight on just some of the differences in those blends, Sam.
Well, coming at it from a whiskey perspective, blending is kind of how whiskey made it big originally. So Scotland's been making whiskey for a long time, and since the kind of 1600s, it was kind of a cottage industry. It was very small scale. It was a little bit underground, and it sort of stayed very local. But then in the kind of Victorian era, they discovered that they could blend their whiskies together, and a lot of grocers who were already using their noses to blend tea, they sort of figured out some flavor profiles from different distilleries in different parts of Scotland, mixed them together, and also used the kind of new innovation at the time that was grain whiskey, a little softer, a little gentler. And when they combined all these things together, the whole thing really sang, and people got really into it. And I think that's from blending is where we got our fame. And then things continued developing from there. But for about 100 years, blended Scotch whiskey was the thing that you should be drinking. And I imagine that rum has kind of gone through maybe a similar set of steps in itself.
I feel like Adrian might have a better idea.
So, all right, so I don't know if you want to talk about something like the genesis history of rum, but obviously, in the Caribbean rum has been around since the 16, 15. Certainly, much shortly after. That's like, yeah.
So just kind of transitioning from what Sam spoke about in terms of blending. and the whiskies. And I think that for sure, rum definitely benefited from blending, but in a slightly different way, because obviously, it's perfect that we're talking about Guyanese rums, because Guyanese rum was the cornerstone of the Navy rums and the Navy blends, you know, that we saw come out. And I think that is, even to this day, is kind of one of the most significant blends within the rum world. A lot of, you know, whereas I think whiskey has been respected for a long time as a premium spirit, rum was seen more as a commodity for a large period, for the early years at least. So it was respected and people understood the quality of it, but it wasn't revered in the same way as whiskies, which is a shame. I think if it was, we'd probably have more than one distillery left in Guyana right now.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Luckily the stills remain. So that's brilliant. That's great.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of people don't know, at one point, there's something like 300 distilleries in Guyana.
Yeah.
I realised it. But when you have all of those, you know, I said hundreds of distilleries going on, that's pretty different the time you're talking about. But yes, honestly, it was traded. You know, the British Empire basically built a lot of it on the back of that trade, and also by the fact that it was incentivizing its soldiers with rum. They get paid in rum, rewarded with rum. So, you know, we can argue that, the empire at its peak was kind of of the rum trade.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, the world as we know it today would not exist without rum trade. You know, it's literally shaped nations, created nations. You know, look at the history of America. The history of America and rum is intertwined into every level. You know, people think of America now, they think about whiskey, and bourbons, but you know, before that, in the founding years, it was all about the rum. You know, rum was the commodity again that was traded. Rum was the liquid that was, you know, to the detriment, unfortunately, of the Native Americans, to the Indian people. Rum played a massive part in that whole journey. Rum has a really, really complex and dark past. But it is also, for me, it's the birthright of every Caribbean person. You know, it's important to me that Caribbean people take pride and ownership of this amazing liquid. You know, and it's not just a thing that gets exported and you know what I mean? Like, it's not just a product that is enjoyed by wealthy Europeans. You know, I really want to see people in the islands appreciating the magical liquids that they produce.
I like the way you worded it. I think it's a fantastic way, and that's also a really great message that you're putting out, which I think is something that we're lacking here. And like I said, you know, I was telling Adrian, while we have an appreciation for the rums that we have access, that we make here in Guyana, and the rums that we have access to, we still at the same time, because you're speaking, Sly, and you're saying the same thing, and these are all things that are very new to me. And so I think at the same time, while we have an appreciation for, like you said, beautiful liquid, we also need to know a little bit about the history and the role that it's played, because I think a lot of the things that you just said are things a lot of people don't even realize or know about the rum that we, almost take for granted, and the role of it played in the history of our country and of course of other countries as well. So I think that's super important. I'm really happy that you brought that up, because you're certainly going to be sparking an interest in a lot of people. Including myself, because I'm going to be, as soon as you're done here, I'm going to be doing some reading, because the way you phrased it, you made it sound really, really important and really beautiful, and I've got to thank you for that. I do know that we wanted to explore, we wanted to share with the people. I'm almost very certain there are people just like me out there who, while we can appreciate a good rum, we can appreciate a good bottle. I want you to do it, you know, Sam, you can jump in at any time. But I want you guys to really just break it down for me, like make it easy for me to understand exactly what that process is like. 'Cause I'm sure there are people out there who are just like me, saying, start it from the top all the way to when it gets into the bottle and lands on that shelf at my favorite store.
Should probably get some into my glass then if I'm really going to break this down from the top. So, I mean, this is already like the first step, just extracting the rum from the bottle into a glass, because
that's my favorite step, by the way.
I mean, the sound of a cork coming out of a bottle.
Absolutely.
But already, like, especially if we're talking about dark rums, because that's, as a whiskey drinker, that's the sort of most familiar thing to me. You know, we start with a distilled spirit that has no color at all, but plenty of personality. But then we shut it away in a wooden cask for many, many years, and that's where it really sort of comes into its own. The flavors just develop over time, and where that happens in the world, whether it's, you know, in the bright sun and the heat of the Caribbean, or in this kind of cold grey gloom, you can already see like the color of my window is a little different to yours, because outside is a very typical Scottish day. But our two spirits, because of the conditions they're brought up in, yeah, they have a lot of different layers that you can peel apart and analyze, and they it's not just the ingredients that go into them that make their tastes a bit different.
Mm-hmm. And again, talking about the environments in which they age is very significant, because, you know, as you know, obviously the climates are very different in the Caribbean and in Scotland. So the aging process is a lot more aggressive initially in the Caribbean, and you lose a lot more what we call the angel share. Some people call the W share. So the evaporation, you know, what you put into a barrel, you come back to that barrel a couple of years later, and there's a lot of that liquid has now gone. So what that means is the process of aging rum in the Caribbean is a lot more expensive, you know, in terms of lost liquid, than it is if you're aging it in the climates up in the relatively stable climates of Scotland. And because of that, you end up with, you know, there's a reason why a bottle of Skeldon 73 is now online for £25,000, you know, because it's almost impossible now in modern times, unless you're a really big company, to put aside rum, knowing how much of it you're going to lose, and wait, you know, 30 years, or, you know what I mean? Like it's that aging process. I think that's another really important thing, that we understand the added value of rum that is aged in the Caribbean, as opposed to the rums. And there are some excellent rums as well. And actually some rums benefit from being aged at a slower rates in other parts of Europe. But I think that we do need to pay respects to rums that are aged in the Caribbean and give them the proper value, rather than buying them for pennies. This is something I'm very I'm very passionate about. Is that the value of rum? You know, listen, you make money, that's fine, but everybody should. The people who make the rum need to benefit, you know, from the value of their
I've got a quick question. We're talking about, you know, the amount of time that the rum is stored, but does the material of the barrel, like the kind of wood or material,
absolutely,
it does have an impact, yes. So what kind of impact does it have on the flavoring or the blend of the rum?
Massive. I'll let you go first, Sam.
As you say, I mean, the size of the barrel is the first thing. So if you have quite a big barrel, then there's not that much of a surface area to volume ratio. So it's going to lose itself a little more slowly. So you can do a longer age in a hotter climate if you have a big barrel. But If you start to cut the size down and make the barrel smaller, then you lose a lot very, very quickly. But to flip that on its head, you also develop those flavors much more quickly. So it's nice to reframe the idea of Angel's Share as not kind of worrying that you're losing some spirit, but kind of almost enjoy the fact that in what's being lost, new things are being gained. And it's I think rum is the same as whiskey, is that you're using oak wood exclusively. I don't know if rums can use other types of wood to mature, but the flavors you get from oak, whether it's American oak or even European oak in those rare cases, those flavors, they're incredible, and they can remind you of so many other things.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the woods that are used in rum production, with the exception of, I think, maybe the ALC for agricole, the French agricole rums, there aren't as strict guidelines. You know, it's really about access to. What we're starting to see in recent times is a lot of distilleries are now experimenting with different wood types and taking in different styles of casks, and obviously the finishes, wine casks, whiskey casks. So there is it's exciting. It's a really exciting time for rum. It's a good time. Yeah. It's always a good time for rum, but it's an exceptionally good time for rum right now.
I mean, that's kind of more exciting than what we can do in whiskey. So we're allowed to play with finishes. We can do wine finishes, rum finishes, but we can't change the type of wood we use. And maybe that's a little limiting. It means that whiskey's kind of stabilized its reputation, and people at least sort of have that confidence that, okay, if it's in law that it's always got to be in oak, then you've got a kind of baseline guarantee. But it means that our ability to experiment is maybe a little reduced compared to rum. So if rum has the options to try out some new things,
I think if I'm honest, I think the oak is the best. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna be it's not gonna be supplanted by any other style. It's nice to age in different styles of wood and then use that as almost like a color palette, and then you can take, like you said, for purposes of blending, it's nice to, and I think that's something that Richard at Foursquare does really well. Is just taking different casks for different reasons, almost like music. So you get a little bit of bass from this one and some mid-range from this one and some treble, you know what I mean? And you create this beautiful, beautiful blend. But I think ex-bourbon barrels is the staple for the majority of rum producers.
Yeah, same for us in whiskey.
And it's really great to have a different perspective. Would you agree, Adrian? To have the expert on rum and the expert on whiskey, both having these conversations, and we're able to draw some parallels.
Absolutely. I mean, so guys, you mentioned a couple of things, a lot of concepts, a lot of things. So I'm going to right back to what you were last time about breaking it down into the absolute simplest parts, right? So we know in Guyana we have a lot of sugar. We grow sugar, we make sugar, right? So what 350 odd years ago, what happened was all of that byproduct of sugar, molasses, mixed with water, someone came with a bright idea of heating that stuff up, right? Add a bit of yeast to that, you start creating a fermentation process. Yeah? I can't remember a lot of my school day chemistry, but very basics is that sugar gets converted to alcohol, and then we distill that product. So it gets heated up again. Alcohol has a lower boiling point than water, so the alcohol vapor goes up, cools down, runs off, and we create a distillate bed, right? Which is basically that goes into a barrel, and then there's a bit more technicality as well, but ultimately that product there, as people said earlier on in the show, is a clear liquid that goes into the barrel. So what we then start talking about, the types of rum that we talked about, that's when we start looking at the type of yeast that was used, how long it was in the barrel, the type of barrel that was used. But that process then, so that aging process, will start to return some flavors. So again, it's like a barrel, very important. Slice there, right? Next kind of burger glass tends to be less used, but with sherry glass as well. Just here we have slightly different flavor profile. And you can also then do different blends. So it's about blending. What we're doing is taking different rums, different ages, and mixing them together to create one final product. In the case of Demerara Distillers, BBL, you see the number, so whether 12-year-old, 15-year-old, or 8-year-old, what that represents is the youngest blend that's in the bottle. Now, the combination of how much 8-year-old, how much 10, or 12, or 21 inside is obviously close to the secrets between that blend. But ultimately, it's basically the blending is that combination of incomes. And they can come from different stills, they can come from different ages, like you said. But also, at the end of it, we get a final product that after the show, we pour into our glass.
Okay, so thank you for that, Adrian. At least I know a little bit about what I'm putting in my glass now. But for some, so this might be a good question for you because I want you to help me out. When it comes to rum tasting, we all, the concept of wine tasting is a very positive one. When it comes to rum tasting, you're a rookie like me. I want to start having a little more appreciation for the rum that I drink. Can you just give me an idea of when I pour that in my glass, what is that step? When I smell first, what am I smelling for? What am I looking for? When I taste it, what is that process like for rum tasting?
That's a really, really good question because, my journey in rum started over a decade ago. Nobody taught me how to enjoy rum. There wasn't a guidebook as such or any kind of really technical stuff that came by in terms of how you should enjoy rum, how you should smell it and taste it. I think that, obviously when you're pouring a neat rum, you want to pour it into a glass that allows the rum to breathe, that doesn't stifle you with alcohol and etc. But in terms of what you should be looking for, there you go, that's a great glass right there. What you should be looking for really is, start with this. What do you enjoy? Once you find a rum that you enjoy, that would be the first point. Now, once you find that rum that you enjoy, you sit with that rum and you sip it and you think about it and you identify the elements in it that you like. Because what can happen sometimes is people can get caught up with the kind of the usual tasting notes that they hear, and then everybody's talking about leather and tobacco and this and that, because it sounds correct. But you can actually lose your own personal relationship with that rum, because I think everybody finds something different. If you're drinking a really good rum, or even a reasonably good rum, your experience of it is going to be different from anyone else's. So in terms of what you should be looking for, I couldn't tell a person what they should look for other than what are the things in it that you like and what are the things in it that you don't like. That's the start. And then as you progress your journey, you're going to start finding other things in different rums that you identify and that you like. But the only way that you're going to get there is by drinking a lot of rum. So just keep on tasting. That's it. Don't worry about any of the technical terms and taste notes and all that stuff.
I like that. Yeah. I like that, especially the part about drinking a whole lot of rum. I feel like that is something that I can get on board with.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Thank you for that. I'm going to pick one and I'm going to try and explore the various flavors. And don't worry, I know I've got a good resource team whenever I've got questions or queries. Sam, we actually wanted to, find out from you about Cascade, because I did discover your page and your mission, in a sense, through Yannick and the Rum Fest team, and then I started following you on Instagram. And so I understand that you also have a direction with your 20 and 21-year-old rum. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
About the rum itself particularly, or Cask 88 sort of general?
Cask Cask 88, and then of course, you're going to segue into telling me about the 20 to 21.
So yeah, we got our start. We're kind of a cask brokers in that the whiskey industry for the longest time was kind of an insider's thing. Sort of, if you work in whiskey, if you make it, or if you sort of are somewhere within the industry, then that's where the cask trading happens. But it turns out there's a lot of people who love whiskey to the point that they would like to kind of have their own cask to nurture it, influence its development. They won't be able to keep it at home, of course. You know, you have to mature these things in properly accredited warehouses. But if it's in your name, you can say what kind of cask you want it to be in, how long you want it to be there, if you want to change it, if you want it to have a sample. And so Cask 88, we're here to kind of unite people with whiskey casks. If they have, say, a big life event coming up, like a wedding that they want to have some of their own unique bottles for, a special birthday, if there's a business that wants to create its own kind of whiskey, a private whiskey bar that wants to have its own personal whiskey. So you can get a cask for that. And this cask is going to be a pretty unique entity. Sorry, say again?
I didn't even know that was a possibility, that we could have our own cask for our particular, a special occasion. That's very cool.
It's something we're trying to raise awareness of, because it's quite new that sort of, private individuals can get involved with this kind of thing. But it's gaining ground now. I think people are realizing it, and you do end up like with quite a lot of whiskey. Like no matter how much Angel share disappears over the years, you may still have 150, 200 bottles. But if you've got a big event or your own private bar, then that's a pretty good number. And they're unique and one-off. They're not going to be repeated once that cask is finished. So that's kind of our mission goal, to make sure that people who want to have a cask and want to really go big with their whiskey have an option to do so, and can, choose their favorite distilleries around Scotland. And in order to kind of practice what we preach, the sort of second thing that we do is a bit of independent bottling. So if we have some casks that we really like the contents of, we'll release our own bottles with those. That one sitting behind me, that sort of horrible creature, that's the Nuclavy, and that's one of our Scottish folklore series. So it's a whiskey from Orkney, which is a place that has this kind of terrifying skin horse monster, the Nuclavy, and we did a kind of an artistic rendering. A local artist did that and put it on the bottle, and the whiskey inside is incredible. So we're kind of linking stories and art and whiskey together, and that's kind of our second thing that we like to do. And that's kind of how we got into rum. So with our founders traveling the Caribbean, they learned about some of the distilleries. They discovered some great rum, one from Nicaragua and two from Guyana. And we did a couple of independent bottles of those. I think, well, they're with you there, Adrian. The Guyana 20 and the 21. I've got a little dribble of 21 left. That's in my glass right now. I hope it's okay that I'm the last person to drink this in here. So we're kind of, taking our whiskey knowledge. And
Sam, I'm on my way to you. Send me your address.
Heart of Edinburgh, just under the castle. You can't miss us.
All right, perfect. See you in a sec.
I drank these on camera for the first time with Yannick last year. And I think I just went silent for a while, because I had to process so many incredible sensations out of these rums. There's so much going on with them. To a whiskey drinker, there's no barrier to entry to rum. Like, if you like what's going on in really fine whiskey, you will like what rum is bringing to the table. They are very different in some ways, but very, very similar in others. And we'd like to explore more and more rum as we go on. We're whiskey specialists now, but we don't want to limit ourselves.
Having this conversation with you guys, I've learned a lot. Two, I've also heard a lot of terms, and I think I've figured out what it means, but I really just want you to explain it to me, so that just in case the folks that are watching this miss it. Angel share. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Who's going to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So it comes from the idea. If you imagine back in the day, you fill a barrel with rum, right? And then you come back to it sometime later, and nobody's touched the barrel, nobody's opened the barrel, but somehow there is less alcohol in the barrel. So the idea at that point was, and it went two ways, the angels had it. That part of the alcohol that is no longer there, the angels took it. Don't ask me what the angels are doing partying up there, you know what I mean, whiskey and whatnot, but that's what happened. And then in certain parts of the Caribbean, it was the devil share or the duppy share. So it's just the idea that some unseen forces were extracting the liquid when nobody was looking. Well, and that's why there was less in the barrel.
So that's good to know, because Adrian, I think that might be similar to our tradition here in Guyana. Opening the bottle, because I'm not sure if you're familiar, but when we open a new bottle, you break that seal. We pour a little bit on the ground. And that's for those who passed on. So I guess we all have
spirits.
Yes. Spirits are so closely tied.
Yes. No, absolutely.
I feel a little more. I feel a little bit better consuming my alcohol now, knowing that I could be having a divine intervention. Who knows?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The angels had some. The spirits have had some.
Yes.
I'm texting my mom as soon as we're done here, by the way, and I'm going to say something that said. But yes, this has been a really lovely conversation, being able to learn so much about rum and what you do, Sam. I think that is very cool in the way, tied into the whiskey. Even though they're not the same thing, they're still very similar in terms of that process. And I'm sure Adrian will agree that once you've got an appreciation for one, you can certainly have a healthy appreciation for the other as well, and that's pretty important. But you've definitely awakened something in me. Now I want to know more about everything that I'm drinking. So I'm gonna be on Google. My Google tabs are gonna be open, and I'm gonna be learning as well. So yes, it's been a really great conversation. Before we wrap things up, for the folks who might be venturing out into your neck of the woods, how do we find your spot, your bar?
Okay, that's a great question. We are currently under refurbishment due to environmental catastrophes. So the original Trailer Happiness in the basement was flooded recently. So we've moved upstairs, which has actually been quite nice to get sunlight and be open in the daytime and talk to all of my neighbors. So yeah, if you can find us on Portobello Road, the oldest street market in England. And we are 177. That's where you'll find us. So you just come. You can find us online on Trainer H on Instagram and Facebook, and that will give you the details. Because actually, at the moment, we're touring because our spiritual home is being repaired. We're touring and we're doing pop-ups all over London and also around the UK. So we've done Leeds. We're going to do Manchester in a couple of weeks. So yeah, check us out on social media, and we might be popping up somewhere near you.
Oh, you can only go. Maybe next year you can.
Yes,
be here.
for sure. We're coming to Guyana for sure.
We'll wish the pandemic away, and we'll hope to have both of you in person to have this conversation again. Sam, Cask 88, how do the people find you guys? Well,
online, of course, cask88.com. The place where I am now, this is on Castle Street in Edinburgh. We're not really sort of like a front-facing, we don't have a bar as such, but if you do want to come and see us and chat whiskey, then and maybe share a little drink with us in this room, then do get in touch, and we'll see what samples we have in. It's since the casks are always changing, then the things that we have to taste also change a fair amount, and there's a lot of whiskey in Scotland to get through.
Sounds like a challenge. It sounds like a challenge, but also an invitation at the same time. But we want to thank you. Adrian and I would like to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to have this conversation with us. Thank you for making it happen across time constraints, across different time zones. I know that the team worked really hard to make this happen, and we look forward to having you here in Guyana with us to celebrate Rum Fest. So that's the best way to celebrate, right? And we can all have a drink together.
Absolutely.
To some good music. But yes, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for giving me, Solange, thank you for giving me an excuse to have a rum just after my breakfast.
You're welcome.
What's up, guys? This is the virtual event for Guyana Rum Fest, and of course we are so excited for everything that's going to be happening. My name's Allana Bose, and I am happy, proud, honored to be introducing the Banadem behind the whole operation. That's as best as I, authentically Guyanese for you. Please help me welcome Yannick David, and we've got Nkosi Bruce with us here on set.
Hello, Allana.
Thank you guys, first of all, for allowing me the opportunity to be this deeply integrated into this year's events. We know the pandemic has been a really tough one. You guys started off with a really big bang, and I'm so happy to know that I'm friends with people who can adjust their event to really suit what's going on with the times. And you guys have a really great tagline for it's new rules.
It's new world, new rules, same flavor.
Sounds good. And so we want to take the opportunity to really have the conversation about Guyana Rum Fest. You know, when you guys first started talking about it, this was something a lot of people got excited about because this is Guyana. We love ourselves some drinks. And so we were happy to hear that there was going to be an entire festival just for rum. And so some people were skeptical, some people were excited. I was definitely in that latter category. But can you guys tell me a little bit, don't let my mom see this, can you guys tell me a little bit about what that process was like, coming up with that very first seed that bloomed into this whole empire, because we're gonna call it an empire.
Yeah, well, this guy planted the seed 2019.
Yeah, years ago, yeah. I had just met Yannick, and I knew he was this business person.
Right.
I had an idea, and I was like, let me run it by this man. And actually, the first time I spoke to him about it, I didn't actually call it a rum festival. I was like, let me go beer fest.
Something wrong beer. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
But then he was like, man, Bruce, Guyana's rum. You can do something for rum. And from there, it snowballed.
Yeah, so after he told me the beer, I think he came over to the house and like, beer, nah, Rum Fest. Because it's like, we have arguably the best rum in the world.
Yeah.
All these countries that produce rum as well are having their own rum festivals, but we're not. So I'm like, listen, let's just get it done.
Okay, and for those of you who aren't very familiar, Yannick's got a little bit of history already in the event organizing arena, the event promotion arena.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty sure you were able to lend some of those skills, but you didn't do it here, did you?
No, so I owned a nightclub in New York. I was part owner of a nightclub in New York, and I did also event promotions. I also managed clubs, but I did a lot of promotion and talent management as well.
So this was your breakout event here in Guyana?
Yeah, I would call it my breakout. I've done events here before that all sold out, but this was like the big event. Yeah.
And what we were able to see the very first time you guys pulled it off, I think that was I think it was the first time we saw such a fantastic event when it came to the core and every single aspect of things.
Yeah.
But I really want to know, because you look at what is presented, you look at the end product, we see the end product, but we don't often see what goes on behind the scenes. So you said the seed was planted back in 2019.
Yes.
How long was that preparation process like for you to give us that fantastic event that we had at Everest?
It was about 8 months, 9 months.
Years ago. It took some time. It took some time because originally we wanted to do it in November
of 2019.
Right.
So to cap off tourism month essentially, because this is going to be a major tourism package, right? But then, it was too close in terms of securing sponsors, so we couldn't pull it off in November. Yannick called me, Yannick was like, Bruce, it's a bit tight. I know you really want to do this thing, but we might have to push it back.
Right, because I think we started planning in October of 2019.
And so we're talking with Yannick and Nkosi about how the Guyana Rum Fest started. You had a fantastic first event, lots of preparation because it took months and months of preparation. And so with the popularity and the success of this one event, you also had some people reaching out to you saying from different parts of the world outside of Guyana saying, so you ain't gonna do nothing for us? What was that like?
We had a whole list. We had New York, Atlanta, Miami, London. So we went ahead and initiated New York. We had already started putting out promo. We had venues selected. We had sponsors locked in from New York. It was good to go. And then the pandemic happened.
And then the pandemic.
The pandemic, because it put a ban on our event.
Yeah, okay, so the pandemic came about, and as such, well, it kind of forced you to be very creative, didn't it?
Yeah, we had to pivot.
Yeah,
Because you had to pivot.
We had to pivot.
we had to.
Right, and so, you know, which I think is something that a lot of people lack in terms of when it comes to events, being able to be versatile and being able to move about. And so coming down to the latter part of the year, you had this idea for this mix-off competition, which, you know, you were able to stream that virtually. Tell us about that.
So what we did before we got to the mix-off, we were like, yo, we got to keep the brand relevant.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you can't just...
You don't want people to forget about Guyana
Yeah,
Rum Fest.
correct.
Oh, yeah, it's them people, they have something every a year.
And a lot of brands allowed themselves to go quiet. They just went quiet. And we're like, yo, we can't go quiet. So we just did regular Instagram posts of ourselves mixing cocktails.
With his phone, like Yannick would set up with his phone and then just mix drinks in his kitchen.
And then you did ask people to submit their videos
we
as
had
well.
to submit,
Yes, they did.
Then we did a few, then we decided to let's make a brand out of it, and we called it the quarantine mix.
Quarantine mix.
Right, so we started quarantine mix, and we started editing the videos, and we did new recipes. A few brands reached out and sent us product, and we made cocktails.
Make the cocktails.
Yeah, we made cocktails with their brands, and then we decided like how about we do a competition?
Make it a whole big thing and done.
Right, because by this point the place wasn't opening up, but the restrictions were less.
We're being gradually.
Right, so we're like, bartenders aren't working, so let's do this for them, keep our names relevant, and put some money in their pockets.
Right. And then you had the mix-off competition, which was a really great event, well orchestrated, which saw our friend Anna from Bistro coming out on top. Some good prize money, like you said. And then I think what it also got us doing is it had a lot of people interested on because you streamed it live on Facebook. I was lucky enough to be a judge last year, and now I'm here at different lives. But it's okay. I'm still gonna get to taste a little something when we get to that point in our events. But moving on and moving forward, you told yourself, and I'm assuming this is what you told yourself. Yeah, we had that mix-off competition last year, but now we're at this point in the year, and it's getting to be a little bit more, like you said, we're a little more opened up now. And you came up with this brunch idea. Why brunch?
Before the brunch.
Wow, there are a lot of...
What happens to the Rum Fest team is that we come up with concepts and then we fine-tune.
Okay.
We fine-tune.
Right.
And when we get to the final.
So it's like a roller coaster of planning.
Yeah, we constantly plan it because we always want to be steps ahead. We're not going to wait to the last minute. Because like I said, we want to give a perfect or as close to perfect experience as possible. So before the brunch, we're like, listen, let's do a night at the estate house, which would be a dinner and rum tasting at an estate house, an actual sugar estate house. But then COVID still did not give us the break that we were looking for. We thought, I mean, in March when the first COVID
when those restrictions came down,
yes. We're like, man, couple months and we'll be back in action.
I love the positivity, guys.
I was like, this ain't my Yannick August, we done with this.
Yeah, by next year, February, Rum Fest again.
Yeah.
Love that for you.
September,
and we still here.
I'm like, all right. We were like, all right, cool. So let's do our Rum Fest virtually. We thought it would be the perfect opportunity to really focus in on the educational aspect, and we were like, restrictions started to lift. We were like, all right, we have to do something in person, and we were like, what's the one thing that we're allowed to do, and that's eat.
We're allowed to
Restaurants
eat.
are allowed to be open.
Open air eating, yes.
So we're like,
yes.
let's do an outdoor brunch. And we have the brunch
And I'm pretty sure the brunch idea came up because of that curfew that we've got too.
as well.
Yeah, so you start early, you finish early, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you do a day event, you not get a fight, you just stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'd hope you don't get a fight.
Well, true.
Fingers crossed. So tell us a little bit too about what that planning process was like. Did you take into consideration what you can do? Because I'm pretty sure you have taken into consideration what we're allowed to do based on the guidelines that have been set forth by the relevant authorities. And so you tailored your event around those guidelines.
Right. And in fact, when we got our permission from the COVID task force, it was even before. It was before September Gazette, and it was before November Gazette. So it was even stricter.
It was, yeah, because we had applied since up in June. And that was when it was just, I think, 40% capacity.
I don't think in June they probably weren't even. Yeah, they were.
Yeah, they were now allowing you.
It wasn't a percentage; it was a number.
Yes, it was very small percent, 15%.
Yeah.
You were allowed to have in an area, in a dining area.
Yeah, and it had to be outdoor only.
Right, it had to be outdoor dining. So at that point we started, and they were like, it was very hard getting through to them.
Yeah.
They're like, well, no, right now things tight,
Yeah. But they didn't say no though. They said it's still early. Let's defer it to a later date, and then we'll revisit it because we don't know what changes would happen in the Gazette.
Correct.
Which was good, as well as our planning was direct pinpoint. Like, all right, how many tables? How many people? What's going to be our protocol? How are we going to record all these people? So we've built out an entire protocol thing that other event companies can now use. There's a process of registering names, verification of vaccination, contact information. There's an entire spreadsheet that should something happen, we are able to contact every single person that was at the brunch.
And that's an important thing to note because there are a lot of people concerned and there are a lot of people wondering, how are you going to keep us safe at this event? We want to come out and have a good time. It's been over a year. We're dying. We're very social people, Guyanese, yes? And we've been dying to come out. We've been dying for an opportunity to just get dressed up and socialize. And so this is the perfect opportunity because if you've been to the very first Guyana Rum Fest event, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when I say the place is very picturesque. It's fantastic in terms of where you can take a photograph. This is our set. This is just our set, and this is how great this looks. And so, what are the processes, or what are some of the steps that you put in place in order to protect the folks who are going to be coming to the Rum Fest?
That first announcement of the event being vaccinated only caused quite a stir. And I think we should take this opportunity to express that we're not in any way saying that everyone should, but what we're saying is that for our event, we choose to make it vaccinated only because we don't want any issues. We want as little issues as possible. So it's an opportunity for people that have been vaccinated to have a chance to relax and
it's like a little bit of a reward.
Yeah, it's like a reward. Yeah. So I mean, it's the entire. We're right now as we sit here, Guyana and many parts of the world are at odds with the vaccination thing, and we're in no way leaning on either side. We've made a choice to be vaccinated. Bruce and I and the rest of the Rum Fest team, that's our choice. Yeah. And there are lots of people that have made the same choice as we have, and we're gonna go with the vaccinated only rule. We're still having protocols in place. You still have to wear your mask. There are mask-free zones, obviously at your dining table with your people. All the other zones, you must wear your mask. So you're getting food, you're going to get a drink, you're going to take a walk over to your neighbor's table, you have to wear your mask. So it's still not going to be free and willy-nilly. Tables, all the rules still apply. So all the gazetted rules will still apply. Tables will still be 6 feet apart. Chairs will still be 3 feet apart. It's still going to be 6 to a table. So all the rules will be followed.
And that's really good to hear, considering that we're still in the middle of a pandemic. It's not showing any signs of letting up anytime soon, but we can still have some safe fun. And of course, the people can look forward to some really great performances. I saw you let the cat out the bag as it relates to the lineup of performances that we're going to have, because the very first Rum Fest had performances, had a live DJ. It was a vibe. Except, so you're gonna do that same thing, but just have it in the daytime now. What can the people expect?
Well, this thing is going to be really fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got some of the best DJs currently in Guyana. We got Tony, we got Kev, we got Ice, and these are people who would have shown their worth at the previous Rum Festival. They carried the crowd, they had the hype, they had the energy, and we figured we need to bring them back. We need to have them there again. We're also going to have the live performances. Everybody know right now it's with the gal lemma. Wait, it's with the gal lemma.
Yeah.
So we're going to have Kush and his team. They're going to be out there. So we might have something else lined up, but we ain't letting out as yet. So it's gonna be really great.
In addition to that, we're also going to have a small steel pan and saxophone.
Right?
They're gonna
Classy.
they're gonna start the day off. So when you come in the morning, you're gonna be greeted by live pan and saxophone music, just to ease
Nice
you in,
chill vibe. You know,
have your meal, and then we're gonna transition to the hyper guys.
Gotcha.
But like Bruce said, we are working on something.
Oh man.
If it happens, I think everyone there is gonna enjoy it.
The Secret Garden, Guyana Rum Festival 2021's ultimate brunch experience, September 19th at the Scout Association of Guyana Lawns, Wolford Avenue. Brunch served from 11 a.m. Tickets sold in groups of 4. Wear white. Enjoy the music, the food, the vibes. Visit Guyana Rum Festival on Facebook and Instagram. Call 603-5915 or 641-4108 to book your tables. Sunday, September 19th is the Secret Garden Brunch. This is a vaccinated-only event mandated by the COVID-19 Task Force. Please drink responsibly.
Tickets are sold out, guys. I don't know whoever's watching this at home. It's done.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible now. You're really going to have to hope that somebody backs out of going and is nice enough to give you their ticket, which is a really great feeling, I think, as promoters and organizers. That you really didn't have to do a whole lot of. I think word of mouth was your biggest friend.
And social media.
Word of mouth is a great social media strategy.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got that, and then we've also got the the mix-off that's coming up in a couple of days.
Yes, mix-off will be day after tomorrow.
Right. And so you've got a great location plan too for the finals, which I really like.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the remote thing.
Yeah.
We're gonna have the first and second round here at Duke Lodge.
Yes.
But then the finalists are going to be rewarded with a little trip inland.
Yes, they'll be off to our Point Resort.
Yeah.
Y'all know y'all friend get through.
Yeah. And then after that, they're gonna have a nice day relaxing.
Absolutely. So that's
Well deserved.
a well-deserved day. Yeah.
You deserve that treatment.
And then of course after that we've got the big brunch, the Secret
big
Garden
brunch
brunch.
on Sunday.
So it's a fantastic way to ring off your lineup of events. I know it may not have been what you planned to have this year, but I've got to applaud your versatility as it relates to dealing with the pandemic. I know you work in the industry as well, and we've all been affected by the pandemic one way or the other.
Right.
And so it's really great to see that you guys have taken your event and said, well, we can't do it back in the same format, but hey, here's what we can do. We've still got to give the people something. You got to get the girls them what I want, in the words of the great Truth Oven. And so, I think that's a really great idea. But of course, all of these things that we're doing right now would not be possible without your collaborations.
Yes, so we've been lucky to collaborate with a number of sponsors. So we have firstly the Ministry of Tourism, Industry and Commerce. We would like to say a big thank you to them. They've committed to working with Guyana Rum Festival every year. So we're super happy to be on their calendar. We have Digicel, of course, as everyone can see. We have to say thank you to Tourism Authority, Roraima Duke Lodge, Our Point Resort, 7 Media, Medical Diagnostic Supplies, everyone that made it possible for this. DDL for the mix-off. It's going to be exclusively sponsored by their Diamond brand rums. And then for the brunch, it's going to be exclusively sponsored by Anson McCall. So they have Moet, Hennessy, all those fancy brands, Doers. So we have a wide range of sponsors covering the entire weekend of activities.
All right, so you heard it. It's not possible without a collective number of people. And of course, all the people out there that bought tickets, all the people out there that posted on their Instagram, all the people out there that shared as soon as the story broke. They said, hey, Rum Fest happening this year, what we doing?
Yeah.
We got to get tickets early. To the late birds that are watching this right now, next year. Y'all start next year.
We might do something at the end of the year for the people that.
I feel like this group here and this particular team, they've got like the stuff in a bag. And then they say, oh, they're looking a little thirsty. I get them something.
Yeah, we gotta keep people happy, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's our personality. Like, he's petting king. He's known as the petting king.
Petting king.
So,
yeah.
We are doing what we love and sharing with other people.
And you're incredibly lucky to be able to do that and to be able to share that gift and that talent with us. Thank you so much, Yannick, and of course, Niposi, for taking the time out to have this conversation with us.
Thank you for agreeing to work with us.
Absolutely.